You're tuning in to Barski-Lyn Adventures. Welcome to our little corner of the bookish community.
Lock it up! Okay, ready, set.
I'm just gonna start the recording from you saying lock it up and then mute the click.
Lock it up!
Oh, I don't have the intro pulled up at all. Okay.
The Lord.
Get the clicker ready again. I'm so sorry. I should have had it prepared, but we did just record.
We did.
Which is actually kind of nice because now we're in the zone already. Okay, I'm ready.
Zone. Get in the zone. Auto zone.
Hashtag sponsors.
Yeah.
Hello, beautiful people of the bookish persuasion. Thank you so much for joining us today as we talk about reading, writing, and publishing. I'm C.H. Lynn, and with me, as always, is my impeccable co-host. Do you like that adjective?
Sure.
Okay. My impeccable co-host.
Mm-hmm.
You got to say your name,
Oh,
Bibs.
Tracy Barski. I was waiting for more compliments, but
Okay, impeccable and amazing. We are readers, writers, mothers, and wives, and we're here today discussing, quite specifically, publishing. Just real specifically, the two publishers that we use, how we use them, what we like and dislike about each, and why two is a necessary thing for certain aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you don't have to use both, and there are other platforms and there are other platforms that people utilize.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a specific...
Draft to digital.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't have a specific recollection of why I didn't go with draft to digital, but I know there was a reason.
There was a reason for me as well. I think when I was looking into it, it was still kind of in its beta form.
Okay.
And it was not super user-friendly. It was hard for me to figure out. But that was also before I had looked into Ingram either, which is also not particularly user-friendly.
Not at first.
Now I have it down because I've done it.
Yeah.
But Amazon is so straightforward and easy that it makes everything look just nightmarish.
It makes everything look hard.
Yeah, and it makes everything feel hard too because you're like, I can just hit all the buttons and it's
be done.
3-page, thing that you have to do. Whereas at Ingram, there's multiple pages, multiple things, and you're like, I don't even know what this question is asking me.
Yeah, that's true.
But I know somebody who has done draft to digital.
I do too. I know a handful of people, especially Vella authors, have done draft to digital.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there are other medias. There's Vella, and there's it's not Patreon.
There's there's Wattpad, and what's that new one?
There's a new one.
Ream.
There's a new one for it's mostly for authors. It's mostly reader-author version of Patreon, which is pretty cool. And I don't have any of my stuff up there.
I have no idea anything about Ream.
It's Patreon for reading instead of audio or like video or stuff like that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Which you could use Patreon that way as well. So anyway, so yeah,
there's also independent printers.
There are also independent printers. Depends on your area, and there's a lot of different factors for that. So we're gonna mostly today talk about Amazon and Ingram Spark because those are the two that we use. We're going to talk about the benefits of publishing with Ingram Spark and why
we suffer.
Why we even do it in the first place, and the drawbacks to Amazon and the drawbacks to Ingram Spark and all of those types of things. Let's start with you.
Yep.
And your experience with the process from like A to Z, start to finish with Amazon.
Yeah. Probably because I started only on Amazon.
Which is the cheapest way to go.
Yes. So when I was publishing, I did it on a whim. So I hadn't saved up any money for any aspect of publishing my book. And so I felt bad, using family funds to go into the hole for my book.
Especially not knowing that you were going to become a successful author.
Yes, I was doing it mostly just to have the book on my own dang shelf, which is a totally valid reason. So
yeah, absolutely.
Not knocking that at all. Obviously, that's what I did. And I ended up being able to create the cover that I was really envisioning. And so that was really awesome. And I did that for free, essentially. But it was a process because I didn't understand how to format covers. Like I thought, and especially on Canva, you click the book cover option for the sizing and it's literally the ebook cover.
It's a thumbnail.
Yeah, and it was not, but I didn't know that. And
yes.
So
nor did I until I asked you about it later.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a process to figure that out. And then getting my cover, the size and measurements and all the things that go along with that. But largely my experience with KDP, aka Amazon, is Kindle Direct Publishing is what KDP stands for.
And you can use your current Amazon account to create a KDP account.
Yep.
The creation of all that stuff is easily Googleable. So I don't think we'll dive too hard into those kinds of things unless you all have a bunch of questions, in which case ask them in the comments and we'll answer
really
them in a different episode. Yeah.
And if it's really simple and straightforward for me when I had no idea what I was doing, it was really simple and straightforward. And that is generally what Amazon is
simple and straightforward, and then they're on the front end.
Yes.
And then on the back end is a different story, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Because that's going to come with the compensation conversation.
Yes. So KDP, you can publish your book for free in whatever, as long as you have a cover that is the right dimensions.
If you have all the files.
Yes. If you have your files, you can literally publish in 5 minutes. You
don't have to buy an ISBN number to publish just through KDP. So please do not take and clip that and go, they said I didn't need to buy one. Keep listening because we're not done.
If you're going to do only on Amazon, using their ISBN without purchasing one is perfectly fine.
Yes.
That's what I did.
If you're only selling online.
Yes. But from yourself. Because before I even got my ISBNs and did Ingram, I'm able to buy my own copies of my book to sell to people or put in a bookstore or whatever.
Yes, though not all bookstores can use that barcode.
Right.
So that's where those words came from.
Usually you're good in some of these small indie bookstores.
Or like a coffee shop.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have my books in a local coffee shop that where we go and write together on Saturday mornings.
They don't even use the barcode. They just have a button for it.
Yeah.
So,
But, so that process is really easy. They have 3 pages that you have to go through. Your first page is, all of the information about your book, your
title,
blurb, your title, the series,
author name, etc. Tags
and
subjects.
Genres and that sort of thing. Your next page is where you upload your files. That's the content on the inside, your cover.
The size of your book.
Yes.
You want to use cream-colored pages unless you're doing nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
The left to right threw me really hard. It is, in fact, don't change it. If you're...
No, you still have to set left to right.
Do you still have to set it? Doesn't auto-set?
I don't think so. Maybe I'm thinking of the template generator. The
template generator you have to do.
You have to click left to right, but sometimes I'm like,
This one auto sets.
Okay.
It is left to right for those of us in the United States.
Yes.
And
if you're writing in English, it's left to right.
Yes. Even though that's not how we turn the pages, that's how you're reading it.
Yeah.
It's a little
really confusing.
Yes.
And especially if you select all of those things and publish your book, you cannot change it. You'd have to unpublish said book.
Right.
Redo the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then publish it again. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. So make sure, because I had an issue with my hardcover of my second book of my series. I forgot to change it to cream paper.
Oh, no. That's such a pain in the butt.
2 people in the world get the hardcover versions of my books. And it's me and it's my brother's girlfriend.
Yep.
But that one had, and I think I unpublished it and redid it and set it all up again to be correct. But initially, so I have my hardcover versions that are sitting on my shelf. The second book has white pages. And I could not change it without unpublishing, which was not a big deal with a hardcover. But with your paperback, you don't want to have to do all of that stuff. But
yes.
So then that's your second page of
Yeah. And then third page
information.
is truly the easiest thing in the world. It's how much do you want people to pay for your book?
And you put in your amount for your US dollars and it auto calculates everything else.
There's also a space for the 30% or 70%.
Yes.
You want to do 70% unless you're trying to do global distribution. You don't require global distribution if you're printing with other, like with Ingram Spark or Draft to Digital. So just blanket advice, 70%. Amazon is going to give you the lowest price you can possibly put your book at. For ebooks, it's anywhere from $1.99 to $2 or $3.99, depending on how large the file is, and that's so that they can get the proper amount of money that they want back from it. For print books, that's the cost that it costs to print the book.
So they cover the cost of printing the book plus a little bit for them to earn off of the book.
Yes,
because for you, when you order them, your book might be $4 or $5 per author copy. They will make it so that you have to set it at like $7. Because
they want to make sure they're getting.
Get a couple of bucks.
They want to make sure they're getting their 30% of that royalties, and you're not just. Well, I'm just basically making my book for free.
Right.
Though there are ways to do promos and have your book for free for the ebooks and stuff. We're not going to get into that in this episode.
We're not.
I don't think so. We've got a lot to talk about.
I don't even know.
Yeah. So
very straightforward.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, of course, took me a little bit because when you upload your files, they have a checker, quote unquote. I don't know what you would call it. You have to pull up the previewer, which will show you, and then it'll tell you if there are errors. Things like your margins are not correct inside with the inside.
They also do spelling errors now.
For print? I know they do it on ebook.
Oh, do they just do ebook? It might not be for print.
That's as far as I know.
Okay.
But for print, they'll anything where it's formatting is off on the inside, and then they'll also have it for the cover, and they'll pick up things like, does your title go over, the line or whatever?
Yeah.
And we had a friend who it was meant to be on the edge of the book, and Amazon would not approve it, even though it was supposed to be that way.
Meet the Teacher. Shout out to Mandy Marie if you like second chance romance. That's her book.
Yes.
It's on a shelf somewhere, but I'm not going to go dig it out.
It was meant to be that way, but Amazon just kept flagging it, so she had to change it to make it fit within those bounds. But it's really nice because then you can look and you can scroll through every single page.
Yes, which I highly recommend.
Yes. The problems that we've
encountered.
Shiny
had an issue.
Yeah.
But
that was something you don't have to do it on the Amazon stage. You can look at your own PDF file.
Yes, that's true, but you never know.
It's true. It's true.
You never know what's going to mess
through those pages and check and make sure. We had some formatting issues with Love is Murder.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of issues with my cover just when I was learning. But I have not had very many issues since then because I just know what to expect.
Yeah, again, you hit that curve.
And if there's a problem, you cannot approve it and you have to fix it. But if there's no issues, there's an approve button. Then you move on to the next step and it'll allow you to publish or whatever. You usually, if you're not ready to hit publish yet, you save draft, and everything's set up, and then whenever you're ready.
There's also, when you get done with the paperback one, there is a button on that last page right under all the finances. No, that too. Order draft copy. Yeah, order author proof. Yeah.
Yes.
So you hit that.
Do that.
Definitely. If you're on so much of a time crunch that you can't get your author proof, delay your release.
Yep.
You
really need to have that because I've had proof copies come in and I look at the colors and the spacing.
It's going to look different on the computer.
And I was just like, I don't like how this looks. Like we did that with Love is Murder. I changed some elements of the cover because I got it in person. And the way the title was, it was just too small. Yeah. And so we changed it.
The body was too high up.
So we changed those things. And
she's very generously saying I had zip to do with the cover.
I changed the cover, but it was something we discussed. But I've done that with a couple of my books.
Yeah.
Where
we did that with Lacey. Yeah. When Lacey came We got
and
the
that's where
proof
we
cover,
figured out the
which
spine
is
thing.
one of the benefits of being besties with your cover artist. But even if you're not, even if you hired somebody, that is an important thing to keep in mind. If you hire somebody to do the interior formatting and the cover, or either, make sure they're cool with doing small corrections after you get. Be like, hey,
and I would recommend. Some cover designers or formatters give you 1 or 2 adjustments for whatever the price was they're charging you. But if someone doesn't have that as an option, go for whatever pay level it is that you get a couple of adjustments, because you will need it.
Yeah.
And you will want it. And
and most do. Unless you're doing a full,
because I've never had a...
Oh, most do. If they don't, that's maybe a little bit of a red flag. Not like, hey, I want a completely different image.
Yeah, it's different.
But can you move the title over a little bit?
Yeah.
3 to 4 was the standard for Hope and Lies, of 3 to 4 small changes. And ideally, especially if it's an intensive cover, like Hope and Lies was, they'll send you that you should be in constant communique, getting info like, this is the draft, this is the sketch, this is the next step, these are the colors I'm thinking of, this is this. Because if they get to the very end and you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted, then you're screwed. You've paid them, they've done the work.
Yeah, so, and they deserve to be paid for that work, even if it's not 100%. What you want.
So it is on you as the client to say up front, I would like step-by-step updates.
Yeah.
And images and stuff like that. And for me, that meant when the covers were done, they were done. I had one small thing I asked for my cover artist to change on Truth and Fury, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it was finished.
Yeah. But a lot of times what I've seen most often is 2 changes.
Yeah.
And so then it's really got to be, that's why you got to be part of the process the whole way, because sometimes you might have more than 2 changes that you want to make, and you might have to pay them more for that.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
But
they're
definitely
doing the job.
Make sure you get a couple of changes as part of your package.
Yeah, and wait until you get your author proof copy. Proof copies also, just as a side note, show up faster than author copies. When you order a proof copy, they'll get there pretty quickly. If you're ordering author copies for launch, like a full month out, guys.
This was something I did not know.
Yeah.
So this
Most
is an
people
important
don't,
thing.
because
I didn't know this, and I had a specific date in mind, and I was in January. It was January 22nd was when I was releasing my first book, and I was at January 10th or something, maybe not even that far into January, that I was like, oh, I need to order all my copies to sell at my party.
Yeah.
And found out that they can take up to a month. My general experience has been about 2 weeks.
The hardcovers, I know right now at this moment of recording, hardcovers are taking 2 months. And there's
it's because Amazon outsources the printing of the...
And they don't,
hardcovers.
Your readers will get copies before you do. They don't prioritize author copies. So let me tell you
what my sneaky
because they don't make as much money on author copies.
What I did was I published my book.
Oh yeah, tips and tricks.
Did not tell anybody. Put the price as low as humanly possible and ordered it as a customer through Amazon Prime. The cost was only marginally more than it would have been author copy wise, because you're paying for the print price of your author copies, but then you're paying shipping. And I have Prime. So I did the lowest price possible on my paperbacks, ordered them with free shipping, but they were, a few bucks more than they normally would, but they got here in like 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's
because they prioritize the client over the
so that's
contractor.
my trick for if you are on a major time crunch. Yeah. Do it that way. Otherwise,
that being said, try to set yourself up to not be on that time crunch.
Yes. All that to say, ultimately, get your proof copy to check.
For sure. Get your proof copy a month or 2 before you want to have your author copies in hand.
Yes.
So that's a factor. That's Amazon. Amazon is amazing for a number of reasons. The ease of it, obviously, we've talked about that.
If you don't have the money.
If you don't have the finances to buy ISBN numbers, which, side note, really expensive. If you didn't know, ISBNs are really effing expensive.
It's dumb. They shouldn't be that expensive.
They're not that expensive anywhere else in the world. They're just that expensive here in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, they're cheaper.
Here's our recommendation.
Fully depending, right?
Yes. Well, if you're only going to do one book ever.
Yeah, or one book a year.
Yeah. I mean, still, your price per ISBN goes down the more you buy.
Yes.
So you're going to have a chunk of money that you're putting out for more ISBNs, but you will need at least 2 per book.
Because
you have to have one for your ebook, your paperback, and your hardcover. And if you do
audiobook.
And if you do an audiobook, you're going to need one for
and
that
any
too.
special editions.
Yep.
So here's what I did. We'll jump over to me real quick.
Yeah.
I bought 100, and I've used almost 20 so far. 100 puts them at $5.75 per ISBN number. Buying one is $100. Is it $200?
It is $200 for one ISBN.
I thought one was $125, and then 10 was like
$300 or something like that.
Yeah. So if you buy 10 of them, it's like $20 an ISBN number minimum. If you buy 100, it's $5, and if you buy 1,000, it's like less than that. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's like $1
like
a piece.
$1 per.
Yeah.
Which you might think like 100 ISBNs is ridiculous.
Too many.
But if
they don't expire.
Yes, they don't expire. And then when you consider how many you need per title.
Assuming you're going wide distribution.
Yes. Considering how many you need per title and then any number of books. I've put out 6 books. I don't know how many ISBNs that is off the top of my head.
12.
Right now. There you go.
It's times 2 because you don't do hardcovers very often.
At least.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not slowing down on how many books I'm writing. In
not
fact,
even a little bit. We're kind of speeding up.
I have way too many ideas in my head to be like,
we don't have
I only need 10. Yeah. No, you're going to need a lot more than 10 if you put out even just 4 or 5 books.
I had the Abradia series in my head, and I knew that I wanted to redo Miss Bell's Travel Guides. Miss Bell's Travel Guides is going to be 12+ books. That's over 25 ISBN numbers. Hope and Lies, or the Abradia series, is I use 3 per book because I have hardcovers with the dust jacket. I've got regular paperbacks, and I've got ebooks that are wide. I will say, if you write specifically romance or anything rom-com-y related, and you want to have your books on Kindle Unlimited, then you don't necessarily need to subscribe an ISBN number to your ebook.
Correct. And then because you can't put your ebook anywhere else.
Because you can't sell it anywhere. So there's no point in you having...
Yes. I did that with... plus, I had... I'll get into this in a second. As we talk to Ingram Spark, or talk about Ingram Spark.
We could call them.
But Love Undercover, I put in KU. So I only did the ebook on Amazon. I did not assign it an ISBN. I may pull it someday, depending on how well it does in KU.
Yeah, I'm probably going to pull Lacey and Damon. They don't do well in KU.
Yeah.
They're not romance.
I had my first series all in KU initially, and I didn't get a whole lot out of it.
It's a truly genre-specific market.
Yeah.
Kindle Unlimited is a very specific, truly anything with romance, I think.
Yeah, it's...
Because Paranormal does great.
Much more... weighted toward romance.
Yeah.
Other things can be on there and people...
Song of the Deep is doing well.
Read them there, but it's most of the time... And I had my first book on there, and I felt like it did decently. And it's a good idea when you're first starting out with your very first debut novel to do KU, because that'll motivate some people to check it out.
Yeah.
And read it for free, essentially. They're paying a subscription fee to KU. But big readers will be willing to get it on KU and read it, and that could help you get potential sales of next books. But otherwise, I would not say that it's necessarily
if you have an action thriller, if you've got a dystopian fantasy,
yeah,
it's really hard to get. It's a very saturated market,
Mhm.
which is awesome. It means there's a lot of authors out there. It also means it's harder to get your book in front of people.
Yeah.
And you don't want to cut off other avenues of
Mhm.
people reading your book.
Yes.
For example, Nooks and
I would
Barnes
say
and Noble
also
ebooks
libraries.
and libraries.
So a lot of my books now are on digital libraries.
Yeah.
Because they have access through Ingram Spark.
Which you cannot do if you are on KU.
Yeah. They won't be able to get them, I think, even through Amazon if your ebooks are only on Amazon.
Yeah.
Unless you do wide distribution, which I would say go through Ingram instead.
Yeah,
Because
so the wide distribution only gets you 30% royalty rate on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
And wide just means worldwide, right? Wide just means we're going to allow printers in the UK to print copies. We're going to allow Canada and Australia and Africa to print copies. Yeah. That's what wide means. And
but if you're going to go that route, I would recommend just going ahead and doing Ingram.
Do Ingram. Give yourself that 70% royalty rate on Amazon. And as we talk about moving over to Ingram Spark, let's move over to Ingram Spark.
Yes.
Ingram Spark. Great for going wide. Great for doing special edition hardcovers or just hardcovers with a dust jacket in general. Great for brick and mortars.
Yes. So if you want to be in bookstores, particularly Barnes and Noble, any of these bigger names, like some indie
Target, Walmart,
some indie stores will happily buy them from you, your copies, but anywhere else, and if they want to order them themselves, Ingram Spark.
Ingram Spark is where the wholesale discount comes into effect.
Let's start with Ingram Spark. What it is the largest book distributor in the world.
Yes,
that
over
is where
40,000 retailers, and that's like
and they use
company
Ingram
retailers,
Spark.
not.
It's not a. They are now offering kind of a storefront option for you to buy for customers to buy directly from them.
Yeah.
I think because they're seeing how many more indie authors are kind of going that route. But prior to like very recently,
it was
literally just the distribution, the printer.
Yeah. And you can get your copies there too. It's not, they're not just distributing to books. Stores, in fact, you can mark it. So you can, when you publish it, you can hit a button that says, I just want copies for me.
Yeah.
You can just treat it like a personal printers and no one else can buy it.
Yeah.
Now they have cute little buttons that pop up when you hit publish that say, would you like to promote through Ingram Spark? Right. And I haven't tried that yet. None of my Amazon promotion stuff has worked out very well. We'll see how this month goes because I am trying something for Song the Deep on KU. Moving on. Ingram Spark is a little trickier specifically because in my opinion, they have more pages. It's not 3. It's like 6.
And it's not straightforward what they're asking you sometimes. Yeah. So you kind of have to figure out what exactly they're trying to.
So starting again from the top, you have your files ready. You have your ISBN number, which you do need for Ingram Spark.
They do offer their own free ones.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know if that means that still only you can order them from them or if bookstores can.
I think the issue with getting free ones is that they then do not connect to Amazon.
Yeah, I think that's definitely.
So if someone looks up your book via ISBN number, it will not pull up with the Amazon one or vice versa. I think. Don't quote me on that.
I haven't looked into it, but I know if you're doing Ingram, don't use their free ISBN.
That's what I've heard just in general as well. It's truly so. This is rough because it costs so much money to indie publish as though you were traditional. It costs so much money. It's so worth it, in my personal opinion, based on my experience. But if you don't have those finances, I don't want this to be a discouraging conversation for you.
Right.
I want you listening, little baby indie author, to go, cool, I can publish for free on Amazon.
Yep.
I will do that. I will make enough money to buy ISBN numbers, and then I will go wide.
Yes, and I will tell you, because I did it, I published on Amazon with their free ISBNs, bought my own, and reassigned my
books. You can do that. It is difficult. It takes time. And there were some tricky bits for you.
It's just time consuming. I wouldn't say it's overly complicated. But Amazon is great to work with. And so I would definitely say if you do not have the money to buy your ISBNs, do it the way that I did it. I will tell you exactly how it works. And it's not really hard. It's more time consuming because you have to do multiple steps.
Yeah. It does, again, depend on who you get for customer service. I know you have, for the most part, had primarily 100% positive experiences doing the chat function on Amazon where you get to talk to people. It's been full hit or miss for me. Sometimes it's like, yes, immediately this is the problem, here's how we solve it. And sometimes it's, let me get you my supervisor 6 times in a row. And I'm like, this is such an easy problem, guys. I just need you to answer one question.
Yeah.
So Ingram Spark, the train rails, we're off the rails again. But on topic, just in a different area.
Yes.
So Ingram Spark has a lot of pages that you go through as you're publishing.
A lot of questions, drop-down menus.
Yeah, makes it kind of hard to look at the whole, like, take a step back and look at the whole thing and go, right, this is how much I wanted to charge, because you're 3 pages later where you're actually putting the price in. When you do the wholesale price, the only options currently are 40% or higher. That means you give a 40% discount to retailers when they purchase your book. A little thing pops up saying, if you don't do 55%, you're less likely to blah, blah, blah. That's bullshit. Ignore that. Pretend that doesn't exist. Do the lowest possible wholesale price. Because if your book is $16.99 and you do a 40% wholesale price and it costs however much money to print, you're making $1 on your book. And to some people, that's a lot. $1 a book. I plan on selling 500 books a month. Great. That's not reasonable for me. That's not how many books I'm selling a month by a long shot.
Yeah.
But that is the price that it costs to get your book into retailers. So if somebody pops onto Barnes & Noble and purchases your book online, you get $1.27 for your book. Or $5. It depends on how much your book costs to print.
And then what you set it.
What you set it to and what you price it as. And I did experiment a little with raising the prices for Hope and Lies because I was only making like $1 per copy. I don't like having the prices that high.
Yeah.
So I just bumped them back down, and people can get hardcovers from me or from any of the retailers that Ingram Spark uses. And if they get them from me, I make a lot more money. If they get them from them, cool. I make a couple dollars, and people are walking around with gorgeous hardcover copies.
Yeah.
You truly have to think of it that way of it's not per book. It's for the exposure.
Yeah. Which is largely more of our goal anyway.
Yeah.
For me, I mean,
at this stage,
it's really exciting to make money, for sure.
Yeah.
But my goal is mostly to have people reading my books.
And
that's where I get a lot of my joy.
A lot of the joy, and just from a fully, like, clinical, logical aspect, the more people reading and enjoying your books, the more money down the line you are going to make. There is a very, very well-known author. I don't remember his name, but the book is like The Pillars of Time, I want to say. He published it and nothing happened. He did traditional publishing because he's a really well-known author, and he, published a handful of incredibly popular books the next 10 years, and the book went nowhere. And then he started to see an incline. And then it rocketed.
There are a number of traditionally published authors that have had that experience, or some who were indie published first and then got picked up.
And the reason that little line telling you how many people are buying your book jumps so high is word of mouth. The more people reading your book, talking about your book.
And I've seen this in real time because I just released Love Undercover, and I had a whole new batch of ARC readers that I'd never had read any of my stuff before. And
your sales for Cassidy.
My sales for my previous books, aka my backlog, has jumped significantly because people liked that book and thought, I'm going to try her other stuff.
And that's a way to look at it when you go to signings as well. We've had signings where you've not sold any of the second or third books in your series. And
But
then
then
a month
down
and
the
two
line,
down the line, you get however many you sold at the signing
Yep.
of people buying the second
Yep.
and third books in the series.
Yep.
Which is really fun and rewarding to look at on the computer, of just being like, oh, look at that.
Yeah. It can be shocking at times where you're like, oh, I've only been promoting this most recent release, and yet I still sold a handful of my other books that I have not posted about in.
And so real quick on that, we are, I would say, pretty successful indie authors.
Yes.
We're not in the top.
Even by comparison with new traditionally published authors. Yeah. I think I had read
I'd say we're
somewhere...
resting around the 50% range of just authors in general, of how well we're doing.
Yeah.
And when she says a handful, sorry, real quick, when she says a handful, she means a handful. Like a month where we sell more than 20 physical or 20 copies at all on Amazon, that's a good month.
Yeah.
And that's people, again, in that like 50% of authors range. And our goal is to hit 90%. I want to be selling 500 copies a month. That's a someday goal for me.
Yeah.
But a year in for me and 2 years in for you, that's just what it is, guys. There's not an overnight success.
Yeah. There are overnight successes at times.
Yes.
My general experience is it's a slow build.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a much higher, summit.
Mm-hmm. It's not an avalanche. It's a snowball.
Yeah. And so it just, and we have a little bit of a different experience because some of our fellow indie authors never go and do signings at Barnes & Noble. And we've had several where we're selling directly to people. And so when you consider how many we've sold from Amazon and online retailers versus in person at events, it's a significant number.
Yeah, I mean, I sold 16 books on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. More than that because we sold 11 Love is Murder.
That's true.
So, and I sold, including Love is Murder, 25 books.
So, yeah, and that's another, so again, this specific episode is about Ingram Spark and Amazon. That's why you do Ingram Spark. Yes. Is because in one day we sold more books than we sell in a full month.
Yes.
And not only that, we made a new fan.
Yes.
We have a small number, like 2 or 3 people who will come to any event of ours that they can, even if they already have all our books.
Yes.
And we love them dearly. And I'm not going to say names because I don't know if they want to be publicized like that, but you know who you are, madam and sir. And we love you. Yes. And new madam and sir, is married couple, showed up on Saturday, and I literally bought one of every single one of our books. Her entire series.
Yes.
Both of her standalones.
Yep.
Both of the beginnings of my series. They got 2 copies each of Hope and Lies and Truth and Fury because the husband wanted hardcovers. And then they bought one Spooky Cat to get the second one free, and I was like, I'm just giving you extra copies.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And we're going to see them every time we're in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And it was truly a moment of like, this is how you find your people.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. Internet is great. Online, social media is fantastic for meeting new people and trying to find readers. But building those true, genuine connections happen in person.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have new books coming out, that just added 2 more people to our list who are auto buys for Tracy Barski and C.H. Lyn.
Yes. The one she came to our very first signing together.
Yes.
Did she buy all of them?
She bought your first one, and then she came and bought the second 2, I think, at the next signing. I don't recall.
Maybe that's...
I don't recall.
I mean, we were 2 hours north of where we live.
Yeah.
And they don't even live in that town. I don't think Greeley's that far from Loveland, though.
She drives...
But she came to that signing, and then we had a signing the next month in another town, which is like an hour from where she lives.
Yeah.
Because I had released
you'd released a new book.
My last book in the series,
and she came to get
drove.
She drove all the way
over
down
an hour
for
to get that one,
Yeah.
and then we had a book event in December.
And she drove all the way down here. It's like a 3-hour drive, all the way down here to get
in a snowstorm.
the second book in my series.
Yeah, and that's the kind of devotion that you end up with.
Yeah, and that's a small percentage, right?
Yes.
If you have 100 readers who will read your books, you maybe know 5 of them. And that's a high number, probably.
And then it's cool because sometimes you get people, like there's somebody that I met online, and she lives in Ohio, I believe. She's also an indie author and a really talented writer. She calls me her favorite indie author, and that I'm an auto buy for her. And that is something that's just mind-blowing for me.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, I've got that friend in Tulsa I'm going to go visit at some point, probably sooner than later. I have a new friend in New Zealand who's on Instagram, and she got an ARC copy of Song of the Deep and messaged me. She freaking loved it, and she and I are friends now, and we talk about books, and she gives me recommendations and I give her recommendations, and we're sharing each other's socials, and she lives in New Zealand and I want to go there someday. But yeah, just a reader who immediately wants to read all of my work.
Yes. All that to say, Ingram Spark makes that a little bit more possible. But it is harder to deal with. Their customer service is not nearly as...
Ooh, their customer service, they don't have the chat function very often.
It's an email thing, and they often...
Yeah. They take a long time to respond.
They take a while, and then I don't feel like they truly seek to understand the true problem. And so here's where we're running.
We're so over, and it's totally fine. We're just going to pay the extra money to put it up on podcast forums.
We are. I will say this. I've had issues with my ebooks linking correctly on particularly Amazon, but I think I've seen it even on Barnes & Noble where they're separate.
Oh, dang. And that just means there are 2 different copies available, which means that the reviews are not piled up. So for
a new release for me, that has caused problems with reviews. For my other ones, it's not really, because people aren't buying that extra ebook, because I have usually Ingram links their books, like my paperbacks are linked with my Amazon paperbacks and the ebook from Amazon, but the ebook on Ingram is not linking properly, so it's listed separately. So there's 2 different ebook options for purchase.
So you'll have one
on
with
Amazon.
7 reviews and one with 50 reviews, and you're like, I could be at 57 if you just fix yourself.
And so I've talked to Amazon. They're like, we can't do anything because that's on Ingram. I've talked to Ingram. They claim it's Amazon's problem. But then I'm like, okay, can we just pull my ebooks from Amazon? Like, just don't distribute them there. And they're like, sure, we can take care of that. That was like 6 months ago, and it has not changed.
Yeah.
And so what I really need to do is contact them again and try and get that solved.
It goes back to it being a much more time-consuming endeavor to get everything lined up.
Yes.
Properly.
And it's really only been an issue for my 3rd book in the Cassidy series. But...
which is so weird.
The only reason it's not a problem with Love Undercover is because I put it in KU and have not put an ebook on Ingram.
Yeah.
So, which, if I ever want to change that, I'm going to have a hard time, because there's no option on Ingram for me to just unpublish ebooks. It just exists on there, and I have to contact them to make them stop distributing the ebook entirely.
Yeah.
There's no button to push, which is super simple on KDP. I can unpublish whatever I want.
Yeah.
And there's no spot that I can figure out on Ingram for that.
So
it easier.
If there is that button and you know where it is, please hit us up in the comments.
Yeah. For real. Because I think even when when you select the distribution, there's not, I didn't find a spot where there's individualized.
There was the first time I did it, and I wonder if that changed with that change of Ingram wanting to sell books directly.
Yeah.
Because when I did Hope and Lies, there were the buttons for sell at Target, sell at Amazon, or it was a button for don't sell to these places.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll have to look into it the next time because
Yeah.
I didn't notice how much of an issue this was until Cassidy came out. And then I still ended up, I didn't do anything differently for Love is Murder.
Yeah.
And I don't remember seeing the option of individualized retailers for don't sell here. I'd have to look again, but it did the same thing. Love is Murder is separated. And it doesn't make sense that Ingram can't link it and they claim it's Amazon's fault. And I'm like, then why is the paperback from you guys linking just fine with Amazon, but the ebook's not? Like that sounds like there's one of you has an issue.
One of you has a problem. We don't know which one, but please just fix it.
Yeah.
And
I've talked to both of them.
All that to say
it's the other person's
if
fault.
These two, we can complain until our lips turn blue, which is fair, and we do, and it's fun to complain sometimes. Mm-hmm. But without these distributors, we wouldn't be indie authors.
Yeah.
Without them, there wouldn't be indie authors.
Oh, and to also say, Ingram Spark, I have the ebooks on there, and now they're available in digital libraries. Yes. And that's really important, too. Although I would say, for indie authors, please just buy our books. There was somebody who came to our book bash in December, and she was going around writing down titles, finding out if they were at the library, and did not purchase any. And while I get...
Which we get...
I get it, but there's also like, can you buy one?
Yeah.
At least to support somebody?
Or make sure... that's such a tricky road to walk. Make sure that if you are doing that, please, for the love of all things...
At least write a review.
Write a review and share it. Yeah. Share the book with everyone. If you cannot pay the money
for it, which I totally get.
Shout it from the rooftops. If you enjoyed the book, please, on all socials and in person, tell everybody.
Recommend, write a review, even if it's one sentence, but just preferably write something instead of just rating it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, I loved this book.
Yeah.
That just does so much for us.
Great read, short read, quick read, fun read, literally any of those.
Yes.
Any adjective before the word read, as long as it's a positive adjective.
Yes. I mean, we don't want you to make things up, but
this is if you like the book. If you don't like the book, don't leave a review.
I would
That's
argue,
not true. Yeah.
I would argue to leave a review, but if you're going to leave a negative review, give good reasons. Like if it's like, you know, this book wasn't really for me, that's fair too.
But tell us why.
But if you have genuine issues with the writing or whatever,
it's good feedback for the authors, and it's good for other readers. And there is a cliche line that is absolutely true, which is reviews are for readers, not for authors.
Yes.
That being said, reviews on Amazon are incredibly important for authors.
Yes.
That's how Amazon decides which books to promote. So we will beg for reviews at any and all times. But
and any kind of review as long as it's legit.
You will never hear the two of us in public complain about bad reviews, because that is not our domain. Mm-hmm. That is the reader's domain. And if it's a 1-star review because somebody didn't like a political opinion that we have in our personal lives, or if it's a 1-star review, that's a dumb reason. Or if it's a 1-star review because somebody just doesn't like you and they're just spamming all of your works,
that's a dumb reason.
That's different.
Yeah.
We're talking about readers leaving
legitimate
reviews.
Reasons.
Yeah.
And that's why we say, if you're going to leave a low rating, give at the very least, like, the story wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah. DNF. Did not finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you could even just say that. You don't even have to say why you didn't finish it.
But that's just important. And to keep in mind that it can hurt our feelings for sure. But what helps me is I read negative reviews of my favorite books.
That's helpful, indeed.
Because it reminds me that everybody's
got their own opinion. Yeah.
And those tastes are very different.
I like broccoli. My kids do not like broccoli.
Well, and then when you talk about books, too, there's a very popular series that we are not big fans of, but everybody and their mom loves it.
Yeah, there are several. There are several very popular series,
and that's fun. Like the things that I'm not gonna lie, I love the Twilight series when it came out, and I read all of them. I loved them, and you can fight me about it. like,
I think if I read them now, I'd have issues with a
yes.
lot of things. But yeah, when I was 16, hell yes.
Yeah.
I dove into
But
those.
there were a lot of people, I had friends who were like, I thought they were terrible. And I'm like, I think you're terrible. But in all honesty, they read books that then would recommend to me. And I was like, you know what? I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. So all that to say, negative reviews are not bad. So don't be afraid to post them if you have a legitimate reason. Don't just give a 2-star rating and then bow out. Like put even just the most basic.
People do, and I have on a handful of my books. And for me, the frustrating part of that as an author is I don't know why.
Yes.
I would like to find out if the Hope and Lies 2-star rating was because they got a pre-Tracy proofread version.
Yeah.
Was it because there were more mistakes than you wanted? Or was it because you didn't like that genre?
Yeah.
Which is important.
And where you're looking at these ratings too, because on Goodreads I have a couple, I think I have 1 or 2 or 3-star ratings on a couple of my books with no explanation. But Goodreads is one of those places where I don't hardly ever use it anymore. I never really did that much, but when I would list out books that I'd read, I would give a really quick whatever rating I'd give it, and I wouldn't write anything out about it because it was for my own benefit and less readers' benefit, and I feel like that's kind of what happens. But on Amazon, I don't have those.
Yeah. There are definitely two camps. As people who dive real hard into Goodreads and use it religiously, and then there are people who truly never use it, and I don't use it except to check my books and make sure that all of my stuff is has the proper cover art and stuff like that. We went on an entirely new direction with the rails, talking about reviews. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Ask us questions about KDP and Ingram Spark if you have something that crops up because we didn't cover stuff. Yeah, it's really hard to know exactly how in depth to go and what things we need. If there are
small questions that are quick answers, we will do our very best to answer them in the comments. If there is something that requires a little more attention, we'll pop it onto a Q&A post or episode, whatever. We really appreciate you all so much. I think we're actually going to start airing episodes now. Yeah, this is crazy fun. Being able to do this with you is a really good time. Being able to sit and talk about bookish things is just a nice thing to do. Hopefully you guys are enjoying listening to us talk about bookish things. Please join the conversation. Follow us on our social medias. I'm at chlyn.author just about everywhere.
I'm author Tracy Barski.
Yeah.
Pretty much everywhere.
Follow us. Hit us up.
Questions in the comments. Tell us we're pretty.
Head over to Patreon for our after show, the epilogue, where we talk even more. This one's probably going to be pretty short because this episode is almost an hour long. So we'll do something fun on the epilogue. I don't know. Maybe something wacky. We'll see. But yeah, head over there, check us out. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate you, and we think you're amazing. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. For more and to check out our after show, The Epilogue, head over to patreon.com/Barski-Lyn Adventures. We'll see you next time.